Hi, Nikki Broadwell here. I'm going to read a short part of chapter 1 of Siobhan's Secret. It is book number 1 from the Raven and Hummingbird series. You can find them on Amazon under Nikki Broadwell, Nikki, Broadwell, just as it sounds, or you can go to my website, which is www.nikkibroadwellauthor.com. You can find me Facebook, Twitter, wherever. Goodreads, BookBub. Anyway, here we go. Kat's fingers tightened on the door handle, her stomach churning as she pulled it closed behind her. Inside that house, her life lay like shards of broken glass, a scatter of bright fragments that could never be put back together. Glancing upward, she saw her stepfather peering down at her from the second-story bedroom window, his rough features dark with anger. They had argued, and for the first time, Kat had said her piece. "My mother did not die by natural means," she'd shrieked, watching his skin turn a mottled magenta. "And I'm going to prove it." "Just try it, little girl," he'd replied, his eyes narrowing. He hadn't even denied it, only threatening her with his stance and tone. He would use whatever it took to ground her down and disprove what she knew to be true. Darkness was spreading across the city, the idea of a meal or a place to lay her head fading with the light. She stumbled down a street of row houses, watching lights clicking on, the sound of laughter reaching her ears. Her head ached, her legs weak from traversing the city streets. In search of what? She had no place to go. Kat woke in a doorway, her body stiff with cold. A dream had taken her away from the grim reality of her current life, giving her a much-needed respite. But waking to it again felt worse than ever, her face still swollen from crying the day before. Cars honked, sirens screeched, the cacophony of people, traffic, and the progression of life moving by too fast for her to take in. She put her hands over her eyes and gave in to the desperation, tears tracking down her already chapped cheeks. She had nothing with her but a satchel and a small bag of clothes. Her connection to everything she loved held hostage by Jack, her stepfather. The sidewalk was clogged with people, Kat's progress interrupted as she tried to avoid being mowed down. Every so often she let out a heavy sniff, attempting to stop the flow of tears. She felt invisible as men and women skirted around her. Where was she going? She had no idea where her feet had taken her until she noticed the line of people in front of the soup kitchen and the sign hanging over the door next to it that read, "Women's Shelter." Before she could question her decision, she had swung the heavy glass door open and entered the dark space filled with cots. "Of course, dear, I understand," the middle-aged, gray-haired matron said sympathetically. "You need a place to lay your head for a moment until you could move forward again." Her watery eyes scanned across Kat's dress and overnight bag. "Do you have a job?" Kat shook her head. Yes, she'd had a job, but since her mother's death, she'd been unable to focus on much of anything. "I'm looking," she muttered, knowing that the woman saw through the lie. The woman straightened as another bedraggled soul entered the room. "Your bed is right over there," she told Kat, pointing into the shadows. "We've been besieged lately. It's lucky you came when you did. There's a church right across the street, and the soup kitchen is next door. Say your prayers, and you'll be out of here before you know it." She gave Kat a little push, turning to greet the hollow-eyed woman who had now reached the desk. Kat headed toward the shadowy space where the empty cot waited, a sense of impending doom lodged in the middle of her belly. How in the world had she ended up here with all these down and out women? Not so long ago, she'd been happy, had a job to go to, and hopes for a bright future. Now she was lost in a sea that churned and took her under, her brain filled with flotsam. She placed her things under the bed and tried not to feel the lethargy that permeated the room. There were a few screens placed here and there that broke up the space and added the illusion of privacy, but there was nothing by her cot, only the dismal gray painted wall that led upward to an equally dismal, filthy window too high to see out. So, as I said, you can find this book if you're interested on Amazon. Just look it up, Siobhan's Secret. And thank you for listening. Bye.